hoping that we can automatically.
I'm sure they can help.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The hour is upon us. Today is Tuesday, February the 8th. Welcome again to the Tennessee General Assembly's House State Government Committee, coming to you live from beautiful downtown Nashville, Tennessee, within the 51st District. We will now turn our attention to Mr. Teal. Mr. Teal, will you call the roll, please?
Representatives Alexander, Beck, Bricken, Carr, Carringer, Chisholm, Cooper, Halford, Helton, Holzclaw, Halsey, Jernigan, Johnson, Littleton, Marsh, Moon, Powell, Wendell, Vice Chairman Eldridge, Chairman Kiesling. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. All right, we do have a quorum, so therefore, members, to you, are there any announcements or personal orders? Any requests? No, everybody's pretty quiet there. This day in history, it's Hollywood, 1931. James Dean, known for his roles in Giant, East of Eden, and Rebel Without a Cause. He was born in Marion, Indiana, I-69, exit 264. So those of you who maybe want to travel up through northern Indiana for vacation later this year, please stop by. The folks there at the Memorial Theater, James Dean Memorial Theater, would love to see you. Let's move on. There is a pilot truck stop. That is true. Let's move on to sports. The year 1936, Jay Berwanger, University of Chicago halfback and Heisman Trophy winner, is the very first player ever selected in the NFL draft. The Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles, made the pick and eventually traded his rights to the Chicago Bears. And finally, in military history, 1943, Japanese troops evacuate Guadalcanal, leaving the island in Allied possession after a prolonged campaign. The American victory paved the way for other Allied wins within the Solomon Islands. Okay, here's the way it's going to shape up today, members, and those of you who are present and viewing, we're going to go ahead and draw our attention to the calendar, and then followed by that, we have a special presentation by Mr. Philip Collier. I'm glad to have Philip with us, and we'll get to Philip later. But let's. He's got a presentation on behalf of the I think the wine grower. So, with that, let's go ahead. We go around. Okay, let's go to item number 1. That'll be House Bill 1680, and that is by, we have a motion and a second, and that is by Leader Lambert. Leader Lambert, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the guidance on where my family and I should go on an RV trip this summer. We've been thinking about where to go, so now I know, and appreciate that. This bill literally does exactly what it says on the page. I've been asked by several folks, is it a caption bill? Does it do something else? I promise you this is exactly what it does. Our charitable organizations can raise up to $50,000 if they get permission through the process that we go through every year here, until they have to get a high-level audit that is very expensive. That has not been changed in several years. This will change it from $50,000 to $75,000. They still have to abide by all the other regulations. It's just they won't have to do that high-level expensive audit until they hit $75,000. There are very few that hit that. There was a question in the subcommittee, and I think it's 7 that fall between that $50,000 to $75,000 currently.
Very good. Good explanation. Any questions to the sponsor? Any questions? While we've got him cornered. All right, I see none. Or do we have objection to the calling of the question? I see none. Let us vote on House Bill 1680. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it, and 1680 is going to move on to calendar and rules. Leader, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Item 2, House Bill 1657. Chairman Faison, you are with us and we appreciate your presence today. We have a motion on a second. You, sir, are recognized again on House Bill 1657. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee, this is a premier resort bill. The reason I am asking to take it outside of the omnibus premier resort bill is I have a golf course in my district who it's changed hands in the last year. For whatever reason, the license that was with that golf course does not allow them to continue to sell alcohol under the new owner. And he's needing to be able to raise a little additional revenue to keep things going. Balls
Understood.
moving.
Okay. All right. You heard the explanation of the bill. Any questions to the sponsor, members? All right. We got a call for the question. I see no objection, of course. And so we are now off to our vote. Those in favor of House Bill 1657, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. 1657 passes, and Chairman, you're on your way to Finance, Ways and Means. Thank you for being with us today, sir. You're welcome. All right. Item number 3, and that brings, here he is. He is with us today. He is on time as well. We got a motion and a second. Chairman Howell, I see you've already got a motion and a second, but I see you, sir, have an amendment to this one. And I'm sorry, Bill, that's House Bill 328. You're recognized.
Yes, we put this on in sub, but I'd be glad to do it again.
Well, no, you're fine. Just give us that tracking code, sir, please.
1012061.
You got it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Let's address this amendment. Would you want, do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? Yeah, we got a motion and a second on the amendment. If you would, please, Chairman, you want to explain the amendment then, and we'll
Sure.
move on to the.
Absolutely. The amendment actually makes the bill. And what this bill does as amended, it codifies current best practices by local law enforcement agencies in the state. I might mention that the bill was written with input from the Tennessee Police Chiefs Association. Miss Maggie Duncan, I think, who's in the audience, gave her input and her blessing to this bill. It requires simply that each law enforcement officer who is specifically assigned to the traffic division of a local law enforcement agency to undergo training in the proper investigative procedures of accidents with suspected DUI. And this, of course, is important when it goes to trial, or should it go to trial. This is part of their annual continuing education of the Post Commission. There is no fiscal note, and I'd be glad to answer
Very
any
good.
questions.
Thank you, sir, for that explanation. Okay, now we're on the amendment. Any questions to Chairman Howell on the amendment? We got a question called. So any objections to the calling of the question? There is none. Of course, let us vote. Those in favor of amendment number 1, tracking code 12061. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. The amendment 1 goes on to the bill now. Any further comments, Chairman, that you'd like to make now that we have that amendment on?
I believe I covered it all.
I think you did too. I think you did a good job. But we will allow for any questions. Nope. All right. Any objection to the calling of the question? I see none. Let's vote on House Bill 328 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. And the bill passes. Chairman, you are moving on to calendar and rules. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you, sir. Okay. That takes us to item number 4, House Bill 1694. Representative Cassada, you're there. All right.
Good
I
afternoon,
see
Mr.
We
Chairman.
got a motion and a second, and I also see Representative Casta, you have an amendment. Would you give us that drafting or tracking code, please, sir?
011060.
That is incorrect, sir.
Try
I'm
09
sorry.
513
How about try me again. Give me your best shot again. Here.
How about the last four digits are 6642?
I'm sorry.
That's not
That
it?
is incorrect.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, I've got the bill
Where
in
are,
front
where
of me.
are you, Representative Cassidy?
Now, the
I'm
amendment,
sorry, I didn't mean any disrespect for that.
the amendment is 012044.
Bingo. All right. You got it. Okay. All right. So do I have a motion and a second on the amendment? Yeah, we do. We got it. All right. Representative Cassidy, to you, sir.
Thank
Would
you.
you want to explain, or does that make the bill there?
The amendment does make the bill,
Okay.
and in short, just says the state of Tennessee or any of its subdivisions cannot stop a
Sure.
lawful worship service.
All right, we do. So we've got Representative Powell on the amendment. I'm sure you are recognized, sir.
Thank you. Sponsor, when we were in the pandemic a couple years ago, when it first started out, there was we had a pretty large outbreak in my district. And so I spoke directly with the health department, inquired upon that. And it turns out there were a couple different churches that specifically were responsible for a large spread of COVID at that time. And so, I guess my concerns is with your legislation, we would no longer be able to restrict those types of gatherings and potentially increase the spread of a pandemic in our communities.
Representative Cassidy, you're recognized.
Well, specifically, you couldn't stop someone from worshiping God with their family and friends. So this is a specific bill. It deals with no other public gatherings but that. And, I know state of California tried to do this, and the courts in California said you can't do this. It's a First Amendment right. So I think the courts have opined very succinctly and directly that we cannot stop someone from worshiping as they see fit.
Representative Powell.
So you said with their friends and family, but you're saying so a church gathering this applies to a church gathering, correct?
Right. Yeah, if you would,
Representative Cassidy.
yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill is very specific. Worship service, a lawful worship service.
Representative Powell, further?
No more
further
questions. Thank you.
Okay. None. All right. Anyone else to the sponsor? Yes, we do. Chairman Moon, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarity, church league basketball, church league softball, not spoken to here. Official worship services. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're correct, sir.
Okay. Further questions, Chairman Moon? Chairman Moon, further question? Okay. He says not okay, Chairman Huxley. You recognize, sir?
Thank you. Thanks for the bill. I wish you'd included the right to travel and the right to work as well, but I'll take what you got.
All right. Further questions? Anybody want else? We're on the amendment. On the amendment. All right. Are we do I hear a call for the question on this one? All right, we do. We have it. I see no objections. Let us vote on the amendment tracking code 12044. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. I have it now. We have that bill amended, and Representative Casta, do you have any closing?
No, sir. This may be my last time in front of this committee, so I am glad to be here this afternoon. And
All right.
what a good job you guys do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Here, a call for the question. We got it. We do. We got a call for the question. Let us vote on House Bill 1694 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. And you, Representative Casta, are off to calendar and rules, sir. Thank you for being with us today. Our final one, members, will be item number 5. And that is by our own Chairman Holtzclaw. Chairman Holtzclaw, House Bill 1688. You're recognized. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second on the bill. I see we've got, you have an amendment. Would you please give us that tracking code, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's 012993.
You're correct. All right.
I did a little bit better in Cassidy.
Do I hear a motion and a second on the amendment? We do. You have it. You may proceed, sir. Explanation on the amendment.
Yes, basically what the amendment does, it creates a common carrier license for anyone transporting alcoholic beverages.
Okay. That's it.
Pretty
All
much
right.
straightforward.
You have heard the sponsor. do you have any questions? Yes, on the amendment to the sponsor, we do. Yes, Speaker Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Holesclaw, have you had any input from FedEx or UPS?
Chairman
Yes.
Holtzclaw.
Yes, we got a letter from them stating that they were all for this and agreed with the writing.
Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Further questions? Yes, we do. Chairman Halsey, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just one question. UPS home deliveries. Some of those guys have 150, 170, 180 stops. Does this bill require period that they have to look at an ID, or if they got the guy who answers the door who's 70 years old, is it an offense for them when they know the guy is 70 years old to not check a driver's license?
They are required to get a signature and check.
Okay. No further questions, Chairman? No, he says not. All right. All right, we're on the amendment still, and do we have I'm going to call for the question. Any objections? No, everybody's ready, I think. Let's vote on the amendment. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. We now have we have that amendment on there for you, Chairman Holtzclaw. Do you have any closing remarks, sir?
Thank you, Chairman. I renew my motion.
Other than urging us to vote in favor of your bill. Okay. I see no objections to the calling of the question. We're ready to vote as on House Bill 1688 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Holtzclaw. All right. Yes, and FYI, for the record, and I apologize, I failed to tell you, Chairman, that your bill is on to, Finance, Ways and Means, sir. Okay. For the record. That concludes, members, our calendar for today, and we're going to ask our presenter, Mr. Collier, if he would make his way up to the presenter's table. This may be, and my apology if this is your second or third or fourth time, Mr. Collier, but it is great to have you with us again, or with us today. And our routine is we would like to know just a little bit something about you. A little bio on you, just briefly, and then you may proceed if you would, please, sir.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. We will go out of session. All right, we're out of session. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for allowing me to come down and to testify before you. A little about me. I'm a fifth-generation Sevier County native and have been in the winery business for 31 years, reside in Sevier County, and have been in the tourism business in that area for 52 years.
Very good. So there may be some questions. There could be some Q&A, just a minute or two following your presentation. But again, great to have you. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you,
Yours, all yours.
First of all, on the state of the industry, the Department of Ag has been the most helpful of any department since I've been in the business 34 years, and I would be remiss if I did not thank Commissioner Hatcher and his excellent staff for their efforts to reach out to our industry and to work with us. Up until him, we sort of felt like the redheaded stepchild of agriculture. The growth in the Tennessee wine and I say wine and grape interchangeably because 95% of all the grapes grown in Tennessee are sold to Tennessee wineries. So basically, if the Tennessee grape farmer is going to succeed, then he has to have a vibrant Tennessee wine industry to buy his product. In 2002, the Tennessee wineries, we had 20 Tennessee wineries, and North Carolina had 31.
I'm sorry if I may. Would you repeat that?
In 2002, we had 20 wineries in Tennessee, and North Carolina had 31 wineries.
Thank you.
So we got serious about catching them. And last year, we had 70 Tennessee wineries and over 250 North Carolina wineries. They have grown over 500%. And we have grown the slowest in the Southeastern Conference. Part of the reasons for our lack of growth has been the laws in Tennessee are very restrictive to the operation of Tennessee wineries. And I will use California wine as a title that covers all the wine, French, Italian, Australian, Peruvian, and other U.S. states will just be lumped in as California. They have 97% of the market. Tennessee wine only has 3% of the market. If we look at our surrounding states of Virginia with 11% of the market and North Carolina with 13% of the market, and say why is Tennessee lagging those surrounding states in market share? And I draw it directly to the fact that we have laws that restrict our operations and make us uncompetitive with California wine in Tennessee. And if we had their market share, we'll just say 11%, that would create 2,000 rural jobs. It would triple the Tennessee wine industry and the demand for Tennessee grapes. That was from the University of Tennessee Extension Service, Dr. Hughes survey that he conducted last year. So and when you're looking at jobs, a rural job is worth a lot because our rural communities are shrinking and because they're losing their young folks to the urban areas because of the lack of work. 2,000 rural jobs, when you're looking at the Ford plant that's going to create 5,000, and it costs several $1 billion to get that to work out. We're not asking for that billions of dollars. We're just saying if you could loosen up the laws and let us compete, then we'll give you 2,000 rural jobs and you won't have to pay for them. They'll be created by our industry. One of the major creators of this to keep it a rural job is the fact that Tennessee allows wineries to have satellite locations. And this means that your winery can be located in a rural area where you grow your grapes and create those rural jobs, but you don't have the customer base to make you a successful business. If you can locate your winery in an urban center or a tourist area, then you can sell your product in that tourist urban area and work the rural jobs where they are. So that satellites are very important. And I will give you an example of Joey Chesser's winery at Grinder Switch, which is about halfway between here and Memphis. And he opened a urban winery, satellite, in Nashville, and quickly followed within a year and a half with a second urban location for a satellite. He has those two satellites compose 70% of his sales. He's still making his product and growing his grapes in Grinder Switch, but he's selling them in a tourist location, which is the best location for a winery. It's a combination of our two industries in Tennessee, agriculture and tourism. So it's a hit for both, a combination. Now, this satellite information is going to be important when we talk about some of the other things that are needed in Tennessee. And number one, another reason we're not being successful is funding. The Tennessee Wine Act is about 40 years old, and we have a grape and wine board that was created 2 years ago to promote the industry. And it was funded with $300,000 over a period of 2 years. Kentucky funds their wine and grape industry with $1 million a year, Virginia with 1.6 million, North Carolina with 1.3 million, and the winner is Missouri with $2.3 million worth of funding. So as you see at 300,000 over 2 years, we're lagging far behind, and that becomes critical because that money would be used for research of grape growth in Tennessee. Tennessee being a very linear state and also mountainous in the east and flat in the west does not generate a one-size-fit-all solution. We need research in all 3 grand divisions because we are losing our grape growers. The Wine Act that created the wineries generated a planting and farmers moving into the grape industry. But now 37 years later, those farmers are retiring and passing away, and their children are not picking up the industry because it's not growing as fast as other industries grow, and therefore it's not a good use of their time and money. And so if we don't have the old wineries vineyards staying in business, we've got to recruit new growers. And to recruit a new grower, you've got to basically tell him what's the best grapes to plant, what's the best practices, so you'll be successful. Weather is a big factor, and the grape varieties that will survive are critical that we educate the farmers. We do not want to entice people to plant and then go broke. And I will give you an example of our bunch grape growers. They lost 50 to 70% of their crop 2 years ago. And then last year, they lost the same amount. It's all caused by late frost. It gets warm, the buds start pushing, the plants start moving, and then they get a freeze, and the vine replicates the blooms lost, but only at 30 to 40% of the initial bloom. So they basically lose 60% of their crop by that freeze. 2 years in a row is tough on a farmer. And now he is faced with, we've had at least 12 of our farmers, which we have contracts with 51 growers in the state of Tennessee. Sevier County consumes about 54% of all the grapes grown in Tennessee for the wineries located there. We buy grapes all the way from Jackson in West Tennessee up to the Tri-Cities. And so we're basically statewide. It just gets more expensive to haul them. But if they will produce a Tennessee grape, we will buy them. And now we're faced with other issues. Basically, when we talked about the satellites being a excellent retail opportunity for the wineries, in the law that allowed satellites, they have a cap on the size of your production. If you produce over a certain amount, then you have to have a wholesaler transfer, and I say transfer, not transport, the wine from your winery to your satellite. And that's basically you sell your wine to the wholesaler. He sells the wine back to you at whatever markup he wants, and then you transfer the wine to your satellite. That transfer amount can be as high as $100,000 to $150,000 for a satellite. Well, if your satellite's making $200,000 and you've got to pay a wholesaler $150,000, then you're not making any money. And so it's not advantageous for a winery to have a satellite. And if you can't have a satellite, your sales are reduced anywhere from 40 to 70%. So you're stuck back on the farm selling your product. And also the same study that UT did that said, unless you have 2.6 wineries in near proximity of themselves, You're not a destination for the tourists to travel to your location. They won't take the trouble for one winery, and they'll do it for between 2 and 3 wineries though. So your opportunity to draw tourism to your operation is vastly reduced under this. And the reason I bring this up is the farmer's had 2 bad years. He now has a bumper crop, and he says, thank God that saved me. I've got a 200% increase over what I normally do. And then he comes to a Tennessee winery who has a satellite and says, you always buy my fruit. Here's my bumper crop. And you'd say to him, if I buy your bumper crop because the cap is based on production, not your sales, then you put me over the limit and I've got to hire a wholesaler to transfer my product. So my problem with you is that I don't want to tell you, my partner for 20 years growing grapes for me, that you're going to have to let 60% of your crop rot in the field, because if I buy your crop like I want to do, then I'm over my cap. I've got to hire a wholesaler, and I have to pay him that money, not for this year only, but I have to pay him for the rest of my life, because under Tennessee state law, I'm not allowed to cancel a wholesale contract unless the wholesaler goes bankrupt or he refuses to pay me. That's the only 2 grounds I can fire him. So, and it's a perpetual contract forever. So I'm not signing it for my life, but my kids' life, their lives, it's good for 1,000,000 years. And I can't get out of it.
Okay. If we could go ahead and as sort of wind down on this, because we want to get maybe some questions, Don. So, or Philip, I'm sorry, whatever.
I can
But
go for
if you
2
could
hours.
just wrap
so
it up, and then we'll open it up for questions. Sure.
I'll stop right there and take any questions.
Well, no, I'm not cutting you off.
I appreciate that. But like I said, I can go on and on.
Okay.
And I think I've gone far enough.
Well, all right. Okay. You've heard Mr. Collier make his case here. Members, any questions to the, well, of course we do. Chairman Holtzclaw, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. What percentage of grapes you say you used in Tennessee?
Over 50% we buy of the grapes grown in Tennessee.
Okay.
But we also do other fruits. We bought 100,000 pounds of Tennessee peaches last year, and we make a watermelon wine, and we bought 4,000 pounds of Tennessee watermelon.
Okay. What percentage of grapes do we transport in, like from California and other states?
Mr. Collier.
We bring about 20% of out-of-state fruit. That's mainly because the majority of the crops that are surviving in Tennessee currently for the last 2 years are muscadine. And they are late blooming and therefore less susceptible to frost. But our bunch grapes, which are Vidal, Saval, Niagara, Concord, Chardonnay, we don't grow Chardonnay, but those are the bunch grapes are the ones we're importing.
Chairman Holtzclaw.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Further questions to, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Chairman Halsey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here. Do all these restrictions fall under this Tennessee Wine Act? Are all of them housed up in that?
Yes, they are.
Okay. If one owner owned 3 different vineyards, do all 3 of those combined together make this cap on growth, or are they all individual?
Mr. Collier?
The cap is with the winery, not with the grower. There are no limits to what the grower can grow.
Okay.
Chairman Halsey, back to you.
It just seems, I've had trouble for a long time with this force deal about getting a transporter to haul your product and tied to them for life. Yeah, I agree with you. Probably ought to look at some of these things and fix some of this. No doubt.
All right. Do you want to respond then, Mr. Collier? to
Beg
that?
pardon? Oh, he's preaching to the choir.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if you wanted to follow up. All right. Chairman Bricken, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions. One, are there current legislation coming through this session to try to rectify your concerns or not?
Mr. Collier, you're recognized.
We have one bill coming that deals with satellites, which basically takes the cap off the winery so that he can buy all the Tennessee grapes that are available on the marketplace. And the other one is to allow the number of satellites to be increased so that, as Mr. Chester's already put 2, we'd like to see him put some satellites in Memphis, if he would so do that, because we want to sell Tennessee wine all over the state of Tennessee. We're 70 outlets for wine in Tennessee, over 1,000 for California, so we're behind the curve.
Chairman Bricken, you're recognized.
My next question, somewhat off subject, but it's a layman's question. It's dealing with sulfites. Does all red wine have sulfites, and should a person ever, when I'm looking at my red wine bottle, it doesn't say how much sulfites, it just contains sulfites. Is that something to be concerned with, the level of sulfites in a red wine?
Mr. Collier.
The sulfite level should not concern you if you are buying from a reputable producer. Sulfites are limited by the federal government, TTB, and there's only a certain level that you're allowed to put in it. And sulfides are a preservative. It is naturally occurring in the fruit. It's not naturally occurring to a state that would allow that product to be preserved over a certain length of time. So the wineries add sulfide to it as a preservative. There are other preservatives that could be added to it, but sulfides are the most compatible with the wine product as far as the consumer is concerned.
Chairman Bricken, follow up? None. He says he's okay. Representative Beck, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the presentation. I've really enjoyed it. I guess my question to you is, if we raise these satellites, places for the vineyards to sell, would that also allow for out-of-state vineyards and some of the big California people to come in and open up these satellites also?
Mr. Collier.
If they would be that foolish to do that, then yes, they could. But basically, Gallo, I'll just use Gallo as an example. Gallo is in every retail outlet in the state, over 1,000 of them. So if Gallo came to Tennessee, bought 10 acres of real estate, built a winery, and then sold only Gallo wine, he's spent millions of dollars, and he's competing with 1,000 locations that's selling his product. What makes the Tennessee winery successful is we're selling Tennessee wine, and we're unique. And so when we're talking about agro-tourism, the tourist comes down here, he's not going to stop at a Gallo wine store, because back home, he's got Gallo all over the place. But he will stop at a Tennessee wine because he can't find Tennessee wine anywhere else but in Tennessee. And so we're getting a tourist dollar that is reinvested in Tennessee.
Representative Beck.
Well, from the Total Wine lawsuit, I think we've learned that we can't just make it Tennessee specific. We have to, unfortunately, if we open up all these satellites, then they could come in and without growing grapes in Tennessee and open these. Am I wrong in my thinking there?
Yeah, you're correct, but they're selling Gallo wine in Tennessee, and they're already doing it at the supermarkets. And you're right that they can do whatever the Tennessee wineries do. However, if you look at wine, there are 24 states, and that's the low number. It's up to 36 different areas, but we'll use the most harsh level, these states allow satellite sales. And it's not for a little while, but it's for North Carolina, it's been 16 years. And that must be the best kept secret in the world, that Gallo doesn't know that they can open satellites in North Carolina, because they could. And it's been that way for 16 years. And they could open up satellites in 24 other states too, and they never have. So you got to ask yourself, why aren't they doing it if it's been legal in all these states for over 15 years? And the question is, the answer is, is they can't make any money at it. The distribution system through wholesalers for the California wines is the most efficient way to distribute their product. And they're smart businessmen, and they go with the most profitable way for them to distribute. And the wholesale system serves them well with 97% of the market. So they don't want to come in here and open satellites in and Tennessee would be one of the least states because of our population densities that they would want to. They would rather pick on Virginia, North Carolina, the Research Triangle in that areas, but they haven't done it. So you got to ask yourself, 16 years and they haven't done it, what's the problem? And the problem is they can't make any money doing it, so they're not going to do it.
Representative Beck.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Chairman Halford, you're recognized, sir. Oh, okay. Further questions? See none. Thank you, Mr. Collier. We are going to go back in session. You may depart the table if you want to, or you can remain seated right there, whatever. All right. One thing that I did not mention, members, is let's talk Dale Carr. Dale is I stopped by and this is the latest from our member, Chairman Carr. Surgery went well, quite successful. He was discharged and he is home, but he's having a tough time. So let's keep him in our prayers, please. Do we have any closing remarks? I don't think so. I'm up for someone to say let's adjourn. So we got a motion to adjourn. I got a second. We are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.